welcome back to another awesome episode of Who Is. I am Kimmer, the host of this new series. This is episode 3. If you haven't watched the other 2 episodes, I suggest you go check them out. There are some very dope, in-depth interviews with 2 very good people to check them out. But I don't think I'm going to do the introduction for this one. I think he can handle it himself. But let me go ahead and just ask the question, though. Who are you? Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, Kimmer, thanks for having me. My name is Josh, but people mostly know me as the League Dad. And I also host a podcast called the All In Podcast, and we are basically an LCS podcast. We talk about all things happening in the pro scene of League of Legends and the game itself. But primarily focused on LCS stuff. So excited to be here. Appreciate you having me on, my friend.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you're taking the time out of your day to come on and do this. I'm very excited for this interview because I think a lot of us know who you are, but would like to know a little bit more. So I'm gonna try to ask those hard questions for you.
Nice.
But let's kind of start small. But like, what made you get into gaming and just the content scene?
Yeah, that's a good one. Gaming, I basically grew up, this is definitely going to show my age because I am the old guy on the show, but I really first got into gaming like when the first Nintendo came out with Super Mario Brothers and all of that stuff. But I really started to get into like playing games with friends when 007 GoldenEye was out on the N64.
Okay, I remember that game.
Yeah, it was super fun. And back then there was no like LAN or anything like that. So the way we did it is we would all bring our N64s over to a friend's house, and you'd play on a TV, and there'd be split screen, four screens on one. And we would have tournaments and that sort of thing, and that was pretty fun. And we did that for a while. And then I know and then a big game for like me and my friend group was Mario Tennis as well, because you could play doubles. And so we used to play that a ton. And so that was kind of my foray into like, it wasn't super competitive, but it was a game where you would compete against people. And then as the gaming systems kind of advanced, I got more so into just like sports games. Like every year I'd buy like and the NBA 2Ks. I was actually a NBA Live fanatic. So every time that came out, I would take a day off from work or school or whatever and just play all day, me and my friends. And then it became NBA 2K. And I started doing that for a while. And then I kind of stopped playing games for a little bit. But then League of Legends came out. And it's funny because I didn't actually know when it first came out that it was meant to be a multiplayer game. I was like, what is this? And I remember Timo and Garen were like the 2 champs. And like me and my brother would just play against each other. And I kept telling him, I was like, oh man, I'd always play Garen. And I was like, I think I could beat you this time. And that little rat Yordle or whatever it is, Timo would just he would always get the best of me. But anyways, with that game, that was a game that I really started to enjoy just playing by, starting with the MOBA genre and really getting into that. But I think it's when, I started to see like I didn't really start watching the pro scene till like maybe season 2. And that's where I was like, oh, this game can be played competitively and like 5-on-5, and it was a game where it involved strategy and just the idea of having different comps and different types of champions to accomplish this goal was pretty interesting to me. And so that's really what kept me playing League of Legends was the pro scene and the fact that they kept coming out with new champs and they'd always change it via buffs or nerfs. And for the past decade or so, that's really the only game I've kept playing because as I started to grow in life, I had more responsibilities and I didn't really have much time for any other games. But League was like a game where you could hop into, and similar to like NBA 2K, you could hop in, play a game, and you're done. And it's
Right.
like an hour or less or something, and you're kind of done. So that's what kept me going. And to this day, it's still like the only game that I play. I may get into like an MMO when I feel like getting a fix, but that'll last for like maybe a week at most. And right now I'm kind of playing Mountain Blade 2. I love medieval games, and so I play that little so often, or some survival games like Valheim, but that's kind of more just to like decompress and relax. But I always come back to League, so that's kind of where I'm at now.
Right. I'm surprised you're not playing Diablo 4 like everyone else is right now.
Yeah. There are certain games, and there are big games too that like have come out where people are like, "You should hop on this," and I was like, That it's like I got to decide. Like, do I want to invest the 1 hour that I have into a new game where I have to learn and do all this stuff, or I can just jump into a game that I already know and play, for like an hour. So
Right. Um. So were you like beta League of Legends, or like was it already an established game as it released, or like where did you start in League?
yeah, I don't know if it was beta. It was, I think it was already released, but it was definitely like within the first season. I remember, I can't even remember all the champs that were available, but I don't remember much, honestly, of that whole beginning. I think when I started watching it, that's when I started to pay more attention, when I started watching the pro scene. So that's kind of where I went. And then, you're talking about content creation. Like I actually, for a while, this is a long time ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago, I kind of dabbled into streaming, and that's where the League Dad started, came from. And the whole premise was kind of like play League. I'm a dad. I'm very creative, so League Dad. There it is,
That's a good name.
And so I just started playing and streaming, and I actually got really met some cool people in the streaming community. And so I had a pretty big Discord server with just a bunch of streamers, not just League streamers, and that was for a good minute like a big thing that I was involved in. I mean, we had like over 1,000 people in that server, but it just got too much. And streaming, like if you really want to be successful as a streamer, it takes a lot of time.
A lot of
And
time.
yeah, and so that's something I'd rather just play games. And so streaming stopped, but during that streaming, one of the things I ended up doing as part of like a stream segment was a podcast on League of Legends. And it kind of started out just as a general League of Legends podcast, and then it morphed from there. And then after I stopped streaming, the only thing I kept was the podcast, which is still going on now. So
I guess that does kind of lead me to that question. Like, why start the podcast? I know me and Kevin were talking, and me and him both love talking. So is that kind of
yeah.
something that you were kind of like you just love talking about games and you decided to get a group together, or was it like, you know what, I'm gonna try something new and different and go for it?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts. And even when we first started, the All In podcast, I listened to a lot. Um, and as far as the game, like I know the game quite a bit, but not as much as the other three co-hosts, have with me. But what I did really enjoy, especially when I stopped streaming, was the idea of still creating content, but at a capacity that I could manage. And the podcast seemed like a great fit. I do have some experience like editing audio, video, and so it felt like a more manageable piece of content. Plus, other than the dive and maybe a couple of others, there wasn't a big podcast scene or community in League of Legends. And even still to this day, I think there are a few like fan made podcasts that are great, but yeah, not there isn't that many other than the official one, the dive, and of course, Hotline League.
Hmm.
There, I know, like there was Summoning Insight and other ones here and there, but nothing really consistent. And I wanted to focus. In the beginning, I had this grand idea of it would actually be a bunch of podcasts within like an umbrella of the All In podcast. And so my idea was that there would be an LCS one, LCK one, LPL. There'd be one just for game talk, like patch notes,
Oh,
and
okay.
that sort of thing. So, but that again was a huge vision, and not enough bandwidth. So we stuck with LCS. Although, I still have, I wouldn't say aspirations, but I still have like, I still wouldn't mind or would like to run and manage a kind of conglomerate of different podcasts related to League of Legends, where I'm not necessarily on it. I can help produce it and that sort of thing, but it just hasn't come to fruition yet. But again, it's still something that I still wouldn't mind doing, in the future.
Right. Um, I guess this kind of leads me into this one too, because it pertains to the podcast. How did you decide to choose your co-hosts? I know that Kevin was telling me that there's like a Reddit post and there was like a
Yeah.
bunch of traction on it. How did you decide those three, Alistar, Mitchell, and Kevin?
Yeah, it is true. I made a Reddit post and was just like, and again, I didn't have a super clear vision. My idea was to get a bunch of different hosts and have a bunch of different like podcast types, like, I mentioned before, LCS, game stuff, and all that. So I was kind of fielding and trying to search for hosts that specialize in a bunch of these areas. One of the biggest things, and in fact, Kevin and Mitchell weren't, I think they were maybe the first hosts for the LCS, segment. Alistair actually had signed up for more of the game segment stuff. And I had other just friends who were kind of doing it too, and other hosts. The problem is that people's schedules are very hard to coordinate. And with me kind of having to be on there too, at least in the beginning, it was really difficult to do that. And just over time, like people would just have to, bow out because of, they increased in school or got a job or stuff like that. And honestly, it just worked out where Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair were the ones that could consistently, we could all somehow find a way to make it work. And every split, I'd always say, hey, look, we're gearing up for another split. I don't want to have to pressure you guys to keep going on with the podcast. This is strictly just something we love doing, but if you want to, who's in for the next split? And every time they've always been like, I'm down. And so we've always made it work, even with, Kevin and Mitchell being in the West Coast, and Alistair was in Canada for a while. Now he's over here in the East Coast. But yeah, we've just been somehow able to make it work. And bringing in Alistair to the LCS podcast, that was kind of like the final formulation. And so that's how we ended up just sticking together.
Yeah, you guys have a good remedy. I love watching all four of you guys every week. You guys drop. I'm always looking for.
Well, it didn't start like that. And honestly, when we first started, and I think this is true with anything, and you probably experience this too, but we don't know each other in real life. I've met Alistair and Mitchell in real life before, but I haven't actually even met Kevin in real life yet. We're still trying to make it happen. So, having four strangers, including me, like trying to record, there were some a lot of awkward moments, how do we get this feel? And we've kind of talked about how we do that offline, like how we can make it more smooth and that sort of thing. But part of it is just after doing it over and over again, you kind of get a build for the chemistry, and you kind of know when someone's going to say something, what they're going to say. And we kind of also lean into certain aspects of the game that we tend to focus. And I'm sure that that's evident in the podcast. You could see Alistair definitely likes to lean in on more gameplay stuff, more ADC stuff and bot stuff, because that's where he plays. Kevin, Mitchell are more junglers. They also watch a lot of the LPL. They watch a lot of the other regions, so they're always throwing in insights there. So I think that's just kind of naturally developed over time.
No, yeah, and definitely. I think I've been following the podcast for about 2 years, 3 years now, and yeah, you guys have definitely gotten a lot better from back then. The conversations are less awkward, definitely. Like I said, I'm going to leave a link in the description for their YouTube and podcast and their Discord, everything, so you guys can check them out if you guys are interested. But this one, I'm gonna kind of get a little personal if you care. How do you separate that family life from the content life?
Yeah, I think that's I have 3 kids. I have 3 kids and a wife, and I have a job. I have other obligations too. I also coach basketball. So I have a lot of things going on, and honestly, it's gotten harder and harder to keep up with everything, but it's been great to have guys who we're flexible, and if we can't make our normal recording time, we'll try to make it work at some other time. So they've been really cool at trying to find a time where we can all get together, and with the different time zones, it makes it really tricky. But my wife is cool. She's known that I play games and that I do this podcast, so she knows I'm like, hey, I gotta record. She's like, oh, okay. It's kind of part of our natural rhythm. And you know, as a great partner, she knows that I need an outlet to just kind of express creativity, but also something I enjoy doing that's kind of just mine. Like I've tried to get her to play League. She absolutely, like any video game, she is not, that is not her world, right? So it's cool because like I have my thing and she lets me have my thing, and it's kind of like it's good for, you know, a relationship to where, you know, you have your own kind of space and thing to just kind of explore and be creative in. So it's, you know, again, it's just having a good partner and great kids. So
No, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear that you guys are able to work that out and you know, kind of live your guys' own lives while also living together. So that's awesome to hear. This one's kind of like a funny question for it. So I know you go to the live events and finals if they're on the East Coast, and I know you went to a Worlds. Did you bring your family? Were they excited, or was it more of like you had to drag your family along with you? You know, because I know that if like I've been talking about trying to go to an event with my girlfriend because well, we travel together, and she's like, yeah, I'll go with you. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I mean, I guess I'll go with you. So it's me. I'm dragging her along with me because it's something that I want to do, but she doesn't want she doesn't want me to not experience that. So is that kind of different in your perspective of they're like, oh, let's go. This actually sounds fun, or they're like, you know, we're gonna do this for you because this is what you do and we love you.
yeah, part of it is, well, one, it's not cheap to travel with 5 people in my family. So I'm actually okay with my wife not going. She would be bored to death anyways. You know, if anything, if she wanted to go, you know, it would be like, yeah, I'll go to the event. You can explore, you know, whatever city we're in or whatever. But I did think it would be a fun experience for my kids. Not all of them, but because my youngest one she's only 7. She doesn't really, she plays Roblox, but she doesn't, you know, really know what League of Legends is. My son, he plays video games. He plays a lot of Rocket League. He knows League of Legends. We play sometimes against bots or whatever, and he does kind of watch the scene sometimes when I'm watching, and he knows some of the orgs. And so for Worlds, you know, I was like, hey, let's take a father-son trip, and he was totally down for it because even though he doesn't play League, he loves video games and was totally cool with it. And so I took him to Atlanta, and he had a blast. And you know, we did things, you know, outside of just the event. We did like the museum and different things like that. So he had a good time. But for the finals in Raleigh, I actually, you know, I had 2-day tickets. So one day I took my oldest daughter, who she's kind of into video games. She's more into like Minecraft building stuff, but she loves anime and cosplay. And so I took her one day, and she was really excited with all the cosplay that was going on. So that was her big fun, and she just had fun, like, you know, being in a stadium and like seeing all this excitement happening. So I think for them, it was definitely a fun experience. And that one I could have brought my wife, but she's like, nah, it's cool, and that's okay. Like I actually am okay with her not being there because then I don't have to worry about like taking care of her during the thing. Like, are you having fun? Are you bored? Whatever. Right. Like I could just go around, and I know that person. So like when we were at the event, like even, you know, other than the notable, really recognizable people, I mean, I saw a bunch of YouTubers that I watch all the time, just randomly walking, and I'm like, hey, I know you. And I'd like stop them, and they're like really cool, and we take pictures. And so like I'd tell my kids, oh yeah, that's so-and-so, and all this stuff. So it was a really good time. But that's kind of how I do it with the family and bringing them to live events.
Okay, so this kind of leads me into this next question, and I just kind of came off the top of my head. Like, how does that feel for you that you get to show your kids something you love and something that you grew up on, and kind of see their reaction to it? How does that make you feel as one, a person, and two, as a dad?
Yeah, I think it's really cool, you know, and I think maybe all dads or parents like have this idea and want this feeling of like, hey, me and my kids bond over the same enjoyable thing that we like, right? So I've tried to get my kids to play League, but it's still a little not complicated. But I know for my son, he probably could start playing it, but it's too slow for him. Like he likes fast-paced games, and I think that's the kind of the generation that they're at. You know, like me, I can't keep up with those fast-paced games. Like League is just the perfect pace for me, but it is still in the same sphere. And so to have that feeling of like we get to share something together, which is video games. And he knows like some of the players with that, like he knows who Faker is, he knows who Doublelift is, like, and he'll ask like when we're watching and stuff like that, and he'll ask me the storylines, like, so why, you know, why C9 versus Golden Guardians, and I'll tell him, and he's genuinely excited. And so that is a really great feeling because you get to share that with your kid. And even though he's not a League of Legends player per se, like he really likes Rocket League, and I'll play Rocket League with him, and so we share that together. But it is trying to find that common ground. And you know, as much as a parent, like I want to do the exact same thing that they have, I've kind of realized like if I try to force them into something that they don't really like, then it won't be enjoyable for them, and then I'm just kind of trying to pursue that idea without it actually being fun for them. So just finding those general spaces where we can find some commonality is great. So the short answer to my long-winded rant is that yeah, it's a great feeling, and it does make me feel really happy that they're, you know, interested in it.
That's sweet. No, that's super awesome. I'm gonna kind of swing away from the you know, that personal life. What's your kind of overall goal in this podcast? More content. What kind of things do you want this? Do you have an overall goal, or are you just doing this for fun?
Yeah, I think in the beginning when you know, my first like vision of it, an idea of it, and even when you know, we first were kind of taking it more seriously with Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair, like we did have like, you know, we actually formed like an LLC, like a actual business thing to, you know, see if we could take it far and actually make a go out of it, and see what would happen. I think that's kind of faded a little bit. Not, I think what we've realized, all four of us, is that we know what it takes to kind of make it successful, but we don't have the bandwidth for it. None of us do. You know, if we were just doing it full time and we had no other responsibilities, then yeah, we could really do that. But we're all at a space like where we have other things that have priority over this. So we still do it because we love doing it. And that's how we kind of want to keep it. Like, if it takes off, like we got to interview Azael thanks to you, right? Like that was great. And, you know, we really did put an effort to make sure that we promoted it well, that it was well done. But again, we're not like actively trying to be like, hey, we want to be, you know, this or whatever. We do think we have a great podcast, especially in the League of Legends scene. And so we want people to know about it, especially if they play League or watch LCS. Like we want them to know about it, want them to, you know, actually be a part of the community. And it's great to see it in the Discord, like people just talking about League and having discussions about it. Like that's what we love, because that's what we do. And so the more people we can bring into that fold, I think that's genuinely what makes us happy, and to play games with friends who are just chill and like, you know, want to just have fun playing League. That's the great thing, is that we all have something in common. You know, we all experience the same frustrations with the game, with the community, with the champions, with the
Right.
buffs and the nerfs and the OP items. And, you know, it's all of that stuff. And that's what makes it fun. And that's why we continue to do it. So not actively trying to make it like this huge thing, but we are, you know, consistent with it. And, you know, we want people to know about it. And if we became like this really big podcast within the LCS scene, then yeah, that would be great. But I don't think we're actively like saying like we need to, you know, we need to push this thing to the next level.
Right. Do you guys think that you guys want to like make that step, or do you guys kind of just like, we'll just kind of see how things go, or are you guys in the talks of wanting to push it to that next level anytime soon?
I mean, I think all of us like have the desire to do it. I think what we've realized though is that as much as we want, we can't or aren't willing to sacrifice our other responsibilities to really put in the time that it takes. Because to be honest, you know, growing any kind of content takes a lot of interaction with a community, and really, and genuine interaction, like not just posting your links and saying like, hey, check it out. Like, and a lot of the League community is really active on Twitter, really active on Reddit, which is something that none of us are really active on that much, you know? And if we wanted to, then we would have to become very active in those platforms, genuinely engaging and spending more time in the community. But it's just not feasible for us at the moment. So the desire is there, the bandwidth is not there. And if, there were people that could actively take part in community management and stuff like that, then, maybe that would be a thing. But with just the four of us, we don't have the bandwidth to take it to the next level, even though, in our hearts, of course, we would want it to blow up.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that kind of wraps things up. I kind of don't have any more questions. The questions that I wanted to ask, you answered, and you answered well. So this was an awesome interview. I'm really glad that we sat down and talked. I'm really glad that we were able to sit down and have a conversation, because I don't think we've had very many personal conversations other than like through the Discord. So this was a super cool time. Do you have any final statements you want to leave for the viewers? Anything you want to promote or anything?
Not really promote anything. I just want to give a shout out to you because, Kimmer, you have been, a long time listener. I mean, we've mentioned you on the podcast several times. You're just a cool dude, man. And I know we haven't had a lot of personal conversations. Part of that is just because, like I said, I have so many other responsibilities going on that I'm not even on Discord as much as I would like to be. But yeah, man, like you've been a great supporter of the podcast. You've been a part of this community. Like we feel like you're just like an honorary member of the podcast as well. You set up the Azael interview, and it's been great. And I'm really excited to have to know you as a friend and just have you as part of the community. So appreciate you. I'm looking forward to how this series goes. I did see the interview with Kevin, so that was pretty cool. I'm looking forward to more of the Double D podcast and the Who Is series. So keep doing what you're doing. I'm excited. And of course, you've got a fan for life over here and a friend, my friend. So thanks again for the interview.
No, thank you. I appreciate all of that. And like you said, likewise to you, you got a friend over here, and like you were saying, longtime viewer. And I do love the All In podcast. I'm glad I found it on, I think it was Twitter one day.
Nice.
I think you commented under Azael's post one day, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna
See,
tap into this, because I don't really have people. I don't talk to League much over here in my real world, except for Lust Life. So you guys are doing great things too. I'll go ahead and leave their podcast in their description. Shout them out for you guys. But thank you. I appreciate for coming out and spending the time with me. I hope we are able to do this again. Maybe in the future we'll do like a Who Is part 2.
Man.
I know me and Kevin were talking about possibly doing that, so we should definitely try to do that. But thank you for joining. Thank you, viewers, for watching. Make sure you go check out his channel and join the Discord if you guys want to talk everything League. And thank you. Peace.
All right. Thanks, man.